So I entitled my presentation Pieces of the Past because I found that it kind of mirrored my book's title, Broken Verses. This book is by Kamila Shamsie, and just to give you some background information, it centers around a young woman whose mother 15 years earlier went missing, just out of the blue vanished. And around that time, her mother's lover, who she was having an affair with, also was brutally murdered. And this is because he was a major poet in Pakistan, and so he was very controversial, and so it's understood that the government was sort of behind his killing. And at the same time, her mother was a women's rights activist, so the two of them were very big in the media, so everybody knew that name. However, 15 years later, the daughter begins to receive these letters. They're written in the same style as the poet, same wit, and everything, and it starts to suggest that he's alive. And so she begins to question that maybe her mother's alive too, and she starts this journey to find out the truth of what happened. Some of the themes of the novel that I'd like to highlight, the first one is loss and acceptance versus denial of loss, and why it's important to accept it to carry on. I think that ultimately this book answers the question, at what point is it appropriate to let go, and why is it important to let go? Because as Mani, as it's demonstrated, for 15 years it seems that she's moved on. But the second she receives these letters, she latches onto them and she just takes it and runs with it without even questioning if it's fake or not. So it kind of shows that a part of her is still not complete and she really hasn't let go. And it's asking, like, does she have reasonable means to question history and to alter the past? Another theme would be relationships, because the main character, Asmani, holds many dynamic relationships, and one of the most major ones is actually the one with her mother, because she has so much hatred for her, but at the same time, you see into her mind and you get glimpses of her saying, oh, I can't wait the day when she comes home and I'll forgive her. And so it's very much mixed emotions, and so it's dealing with that a lot. And she says a quote about her mother that kind of demonstrates this theory, where she says, quote, "She wasn't an unbreakable creature of myth. She was entirely human, entirely breakable, and entirely extraordinary." So that kind of gives you a glimpse of what her mother was like. Okay, so the setting of this novel is very important to the main storyline because it's set in Pakistan, and it's in the early 2000s. However, there are flashbacks to the 70s and 80s. Now, at this time, General Zia-ul-Haq was president, and he's kind of understood to be the distant enemy of the novel, and he's behind the poet's death, and that's who you just really don't like. He's imposed martial law on the people, and her mother advocated against him. And on the other side, we have Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, and he's actually the alter ego of General Zia-ul-Haq. These two were major enemies, but Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was the one who most people liked, and he promoted democracy, and so that was a major theme of the novel too. And so also I noticed that Bhutto's daughter Benazir has some parallels with the mother because they're both women's rights activists, so I just saw that too. Finally, if I were to incorporate this into the BL curriculum, I would definitely mention the themes and the setting that I mentioned before, but also I would add to it a few more aspects of art and poetry particularly, because it's very important to see how one's own unique art, kind of their own style, how you can tell it's them. Because when she receives these letters, she automatically is like, oh, this must be the poet because this is written in his style and I know how he writes. And so what is it that makes you know that this is someone's piece of work? And finally, I think students would gain a better understanding of like what they would do in the situation. And it's kind of a self-examination process. It makes you think about that state of unknown. Would you want to find the truth? Would you just let it go? Or how would you deal with that?